So when I met you, I had no idea that you had so many books out. And I have to thank you, first of all, because without you, I probably would not have gotten my book published so quickly. You were a wonderful help to me. So thank you so much for that. But where did you find the time to write all of these books? You have so many of them out.
Um, Honestly, I write at nighttime when my kids are sleeping. That's a kid screaming, actually, so that's awesome.
Like right now?
Yeah, usually they're sleeping at this time, so
Um, so you write them all when your kids are sleeping, but
yeah.
uh, when did you start writing sort of officially and say, you know what?
Ish, 5 years ago, I read actually the Vampire Academy that just came out on movie. I read that series and fell in love with it. And I was like, I can write, and I tried it, and that's how Kalos was born.
And so from there, it was just that was it. You said I could write, and that's exactly what I want to do.
Yep. And I talked to my English teacher, my high school English teacher, which I flunked my ninth grade year, which is awesome. I talked to him and I like, will you read my book and tell me if it's good? He's like, sure. Well, he started editing it and he's like, it's really good. I'm actually interested. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. So,
He probably was at first like, oh, good Lord.
right. Because I failed his class in ninth grade, which was awesome.
Have you always liked writing? Because I find that,
I did.
really.
Yeah. I mean, I never I hated reading. In high school, you had to force me to read. And writing, I just would write stories here and there, but like little ones under maybe 1,000 words, if that. And I never thought anything of it.
Well, I'm kind of where you are. I even hate to admit it, but I'm very new at buying other people's books because I'm kind of like you. I don't love reading. I'm not gonna lie, but I do love the writing, and
Yeah.
it's kind of weird because you would just assume that most authors love reading and they get inspired by other people's stories, and I'm like, nope, nope, I don't really at all. I like writing my own.
Yeah, no, I understand because it took me a while to read, and I didn't read until my daughter was born. That was almost 6 years ago. And I actually picked up Cynthia Eden, one of my absolute favorite authors. I picked up her book at CVS. I read it within a day, a whole novel in a day, and I was like, oh my gosh.
You have a bunch of books and you have a series of books. Where do you come up with all the stories? How do you kind of get inspired to write what you write?
Well, see, I write young adult. Sorry, I write young adult and I write erotica, so it's hard because young adult I got from like Rochelle Mead and I'm not going to say Twilight series, but kind of like I read things. I'm like, oh, I can do my own spin on vampires, or I also have a werewolf series that only has one book, and I don't know. But it seems like my adult books do way better with my fans than my young adult books.
Really?
Yeah,
So
I
who are you?
guess
People like erotica.
they like the naughty bits.
Well, so when you're publishing, and you have a publisher for most of your books, I understand you're self-publishing. Your
Yes.
latest one, we'll talk about that. But when you go and you start publishing, where do you find your fan base, or do you kind of leave that up to your publisher?
Well, see, I promote a lot myself. Like, I'll send my books to my publisher. She'll read them and she'll like them or not, and she'll tell me, and we'll go from there. But usually, I'll go to book blogs from either Facebook or Blogger or WordPress and message them and see if they'll read and review my book. And a lot of their fans will come to like my Facebook page or I find them on Amazon and either they love or hate my books and leave me reviews. So,
You asked, right?
yeah, right? So I guess I get what I asked for. So,
So these the people that come, so that's and as I know, and we'll talk about self-publishing coming up, but it's in an author in this day and age, it's very different from an author maybe 10, 15 years ago, correct?
absolutely, the internet changed everything, and self-publishing has changed everything. There's still the big six that everyone wants to get into, the big six of the publishing houses, and it's nearly impossible nowadays because of self-publishing. Anybody can publish. So
And
we'll see.
when you say anybody can publish, I'm assuming when you said that you send your stuff out for other people to read and review. You have to do the same, correct?
Yes. Like when I send to my publisher, it's not always guaranteed that she's going to accept my work because I'm already with her, but you always have to take that chance. And I've submitted to the big houses and had the nice rejection letters.
Really?
They're not too mean. I had one that was mean, but that happens.
Well, I know that happens, but they still don't have to be mean. They could just say, thank you so much for your
Yes.
work, but we don't want to do that. Well, so you made an interesting point that even though you have a publisher, she doesn't always accept your work. Have you had that happen where she said, "No, I don't like this one"?
Not yet. Hopefully not anytime soon.
Well, based on on your collection of work, I mean, I was honestly really surprised because we'd connected maybe a few months ago, and
Yep.
we started talking. I was telling you about my book, and you gave me all this advice on what to do, and I did it all. It was like a checklist. And it was maybe only like a week and a half ago that I started really looking at your collection. I'm like, here I'm talking to like not just a published author, like a mega author. I'm like, I can't believe she took the time to help me. Had no idea that you had so many books out. Um, I did notice a lot in the erotica series, which took me by surprise because I
Yeah.
thought you only did young adult. But um, it's not that the worlds are completely different because there is some erotica when you look at the young adult, especially when you're
Kind of.
vampires and all that. But how did you kind of decide I want to do both? Why not stick with one or the other?
Well, young adult was the first one I worked on, and I loved it. But like breaking into the young adult world with your fans is really hard. Like they're loyal to their authors, and it's hard. And so I wrote my first erotic novel, and I was like, well, I told my publisher, I'm like, if it sucks, let me know because I've never wrote a sex scene before. And I was terrified. Like, I tried getting my husband to read it, and he's like, I'm not reading. I hate reading. I'm like, please just read it. Let me know.
So
So it
when
was that.
when you do write a sex scene, not to get personal, but do you use these from experience? Do you use them from just what you think other people are? I mean, I probably wouldn't be able to write one either. I'd probably start laughing and get all awkward.
Well, sometimes yes and sometimes no, because, for instance, in Max Temptation, there are two different threesomes, and never done that. I had to make it up in my head.
Imagine how they might go.
Exactly. People will read you like, oh, this is a new erotic book. Let's try it. And then hopefully you write good sex scenes because they will rip you apart.
What did they give? Did they critique you like, no, it's not done like
Oh,
that, or you?
yes! I had someone message me one time and tell me, no, you need to change this scene. I'm like, oh my gosh. Thank you, I guess.
That is amazing.
Yes.
Let's talk about your book. You have one that I knew of currently out, and then today I actually just found out that the Skylar Tower series is coming out. So let's start though with Black and Blue, which is sort of when I caught up with you in life and realized what you're doing. It's a very interesting story. Basically, it's the story of two different classes, the rich and the poor, and that's how the world operates. But the rich and the poor are not supposed to commingle together.
What happens when the rich and powerful decide they've had enough? A whole new world order comes to pass with the assassination of a president, and the rich and powerful of the nation have declared themselves to be the elite. No one of the lower class will ever be as good as the higher order, and the blues shall forever remain subjugated to the blacks. But what if love can see beyond the new class system?
How did you, a story like that is very interesting and not uncommon, I think, of what's actually going on today necessarily. But
I
how did you
know.
sort of get a story like that in your head and out to the masses?
Well, my husband actually gave me the idea of it, and I was like, huh. And I told him it was stupid. I wasn't not gonna lie. I didn't like it. Like I was like, no, that's stupid. So I finished what I was writing, and then I went back to what he was talking about. I'm like, huh, the two different classes where you have to wear two bracelets, and I instantly thought of Romeo and Juliet. And I'm like, huh, I can write a little spin on Romeo and Juliet, kind of. So I
And
have to give him the credit.
and I read your reviews in there, and you got rave reviews on that book. A lot of people said, this is a very interesting plot line. It's a love story in a sense as well,
Yep, yep.
and people absolutely loved it. I think I read there was one review where somebody's like, I'm not sure about the plot line, but the story was good. I'm like, well, if you like the story, then that would be the plot line. I didn't get it, but you get a lot of great reaction from your fans out there, and they've stayed with you. Is that correct?
They did, and I was surprised because, like you said, I write young adult and erotic, so switching, I wasn't sure. This one is actually considered new adult, which there can be a little sex in it, and the people have to be obviously over 18. Well, my characters, I believe, are I think 18 and 22 or 23 or something like that. Can't even remember at this time.
It's very easy. I use well, I mean, when I started on Mac, and I wrote my entire book in Pages in Mac, which was great until I realized that when you're self-publishing, it's
So,
much easier to have written in Microsoft Word. So after I got done writing, I had to go back and reformat it all for Microsoft Word. But you're actually self-publishing your first book.
it's terrifying. You know what you have to do. You have to find an editor. You have to format. You have to do a cover. You have to do all that. I do most of my covers as it is, but I didn't realize how hard it was to format and all that. It's hard.
Are you finding that and I 100% agree. If I had known, well, I wouldn't say if I had known I wouldn't have written a book. By the time I found out, I was too far into it. So to say no.
Yeah.
What are you enjoying about the self-publishing process?
That I get the 100% of say. I mean, I get a lot of say with my publisher, but this time it's completely different. I'll be able to see everything, like everything I want to know about my book. I can just go and look, and I have all the control. So it's nerve-wracking.
Now, does your
Like,
publisher know you're self-publishing this book, or?
I mentioned it to her, so she does know. So I don't have to worry about that. So
So tell us something, tell your fans something about Khelsey Jackson that they have no idea.
oh man, let's see. Hmm. Gosh, I don't know. That's a hard question. I am a coffee drinker. I drink coffee from the minute I wake up to about probably almost dinner time, and then I start drinking soda.
Oh, I thought
It's
you were going to say
bad.
then I
See,
start
it's
drinking water.
bad. It's really bad.
How do
And
you
I drink
sleep?
Coke, which has a lot of caffeine, and it's really bad for you, but it's so good.
How do you sleep at night? I mean,
That's the thing. My characters don't stop talking, so usually sleeping doesn't happen. That with my characters, my children, and I have a little white poodle, and he has to sleep on me in some way, and it's just not a good night ever.
So do you ever have nights where, and I totally get what you mean about the characters talking to you. Not that, you know what I mean, because you get an idea in your head and you got to run with it. And I think we were talking about this the other
Yes.
day. Do you ever just toss and turn? You're like, forget it, I'm going to get up and write because if
I
it's
do a lot. I do most like for instance, Skylar Tower was written mostly at night because that was the only time I ever had really peace and quiet, and it's hard to write if you have kids screaming in your ear. So
I 100% agree. I don't even have kids, but it's hard to write when you have like dogs barking, or it's hard to write when you have any
dogs,
noise at
yep.
all.
I do music. I listen to music. Someone told me once that listening to like American music, like where you understand the words, is really hard. And they turned me on to Japanese music, which has the same beats as us, but you don't understand a word they're saying, so you don't sing along.
See, that's a very interesting fact. So you listen to Japanese music when you write.
See, that's something no one knows. I listen to Japanese music when I write. Pop Japanese music.
That's I've never heard that. I might actually try that because I mean I love music and I need peace and quiet when I write. Japanese music though,
Yep.
that's crazy. So your books,
I know.
there's your new market. Maybe you should be like, listen, I listen to your music all the time when I write these books. So at least you could do is buy my book, right?
Right?
What is the I guess the royalty checks can kind of depending on how you, especially in self-publishing, depending on how the categories you pick. I think you can get 70% royalties or somewhere in like 40%, depending on how they work it. But what could somebody expect from publishing a book? Like the most they're going to get probably out of one book.
Well, I've gotten some big checks with some of my books. I mean, big means like a couple thousand one time, and I almost had a heart attack when I saw how much it was, which is what I'm talking to you on now, my brand new computer from one of my checks. So, yes. I sometimes get really big checks and sometimes get little. It depends. All you have to do is market. I mean, it's hard. Marketing is marketing is one of the hardest things to get into because you have to talk about yourself. So you have to be kind of conceited, and I'm not. You have to sit there and be like, read my book. You have to like, how there's, I think it was Family Guy, maybe Family Guy, where he's like, look at my kids, look at my kids, look at my kids.
Right.
You have to do that with your book.
It gets it's weird. I'm like, I think people understand it because they know that you're the only one out there kind of promoting your own work, and you have to do it, and you're going to have this coming up. But any tricks that you use or any tips that you want to give people who are maybe thinking about self-publishing or where they can go that's unique and they can...
What works for me, I like posting teasers for my books, like make a little poster, make it pretty, like, well, I have naughty people in mind, so I can post like half-naked men or women and call that a poster.
You're so lucky. I don't know if you could do that in the spirituality category.
I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe we'll have to combine our efforts and see what we can come up with.
Right?
It's the new spiritual erotica, sporadica.
Sporadica, that's perfect.
Yes, we'll kind of coin our own category. Do you set a goal each month of how many you want to sell when your new book is out there?
Kind of. I mean, not really, because I don't know. When I release a book, I message all my blogger friends and saying, hey, can you share this for me? It's brand new. And usually I release my book. Usually they're about 99 cents for the first month or two. That's what I'm going to do for Skylar. And then I move it up to $1.99 because as a new author, a lot of people are more willing to pay 99 cents than $1.99 for an author they don't know yet. So,
where do you go to find new audiences or new people?
Honestly, I go to Facebook and I type in book blogs or something with book in it, and you'll pull up a bunch. I'll send you a list if you want, a bunch of like bloggers that will share your book, share your page, do whatever, and promote you. It's pretty awesome. A lot of bloggers are very supportive of indie authors.
Which is really good. It is a really good, I find, a good community because
it is.
You're right. They do have a lot of support, and they understand that. I think for people when they who haven't written a book, and you're seasoned at it, I'm new at it, but it is it's a process, and it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, not to sound cliche, but it really is.
People don't understand. Like, they think that you just put a book out there, like, here, take my book, and people don't understand how the work you put into it. Most of my books take me about, I want to say, 1 to 3 months to write, and then you have to edit, then you have to do a cover, you have to promote, you have to do all that. I've been done with Skylar Tower now for about 2 months, and it's still not coming out for another month.
Well, I saw that it's actually coming out on April 17th, so everybody can use their tax return if they found the 15th to buy Skylar Tower. But that's one series that you have that a lot of people are waiting on. They want to know what happens next.
That's my first suspense novel, so hopefully I did it right. Everyone that's read it said it's good. Like, I'm like, I hope so.
So is there a lot of pressure to put out a series because now people are counting on you and now they've connected with this character or characters and they want to know what happens?
I get messages all the time asking me for Black and Blue 2, for Kalos 3, for even sometimes my werewolf series. I only written the one book on that, and they're like, I need more. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'll get on it.
What is popular? Like, what do people like?
They do like their paranormal stuff. I mean, it seems like my Incubus series, which Incubus are demons that seduce women. That's my naughty series. That series seems to be the one that's more my hit because it's everything that people like. They like paranormal, they like romance. So.
Yeah, I think somebody once told me that. They're like, well, think about everything that sells. It's sex, it's, as you said, paranormal. I was considering, well, I'm not considering. I think I'm going to do it. It's just, it's not necessarily my genre, but angels or witches?
Oh, I love them both.
I'm the same way. I mean, I think they're both fascinating, but can you combine two worlds that don't seemingly exist?
Absolutely. I mean, which series was that? Cynthia Eden, for instance, she has a vampire and an angel, a fallen angel that falls in love, which is awesome.
See, I get too like I think I overthink it way too much. I'm like, well, in real life, an angel and a vampire would never fall in love because the angel's going to know the vampire's a vampire, and then I'm like, Mike, knock it off, really? I mean, angels and vampires.
Yep,
So
I
it's,
totally agree.
but who knows? One day I'll get it done. Who is somebody in this day and age that inspires you? Be it an author, be it an actor, be it a real person. Who inspires you?
I'm probably gonna butcher his last name, but I actually based one of my characters after him, and I didn't realize at the time how truly amazing he is. Ian Summerlander from Lost and Vampire Diaries. I based my Ian author after him, and I don't know. He inspires me because he's so, like, earth friendly, I guess you can put it. I don't know.
And is he somebody that you've been able to connect with or at least chat with online or anything like that?
I wish.
Wow.
No, no, not yet.
Is there a topic or a book genre that you will absolutely not touch?
I am a history buff. I love, love, love history, and to the point when I read a historical novel, like a romance novel, and I start reading, I know sometimes there's little things that are wrong, like dialogue or clothes or the setting, and I'm like, I can't. Every time I try to read a romance novel that's historical, it makes me mad and I have to put it down because I just want to contact the author and say, you did this one wrong and this and this and this. I'm like, I can't do that. I have to stop. So,
Well,
yes.
you mentioned that I believe you've only had one bad review, correct?
Oh no, I've had a few. A few.
How do
A
you react?
lot.
How do you react to those?
Now the first few that I read, I cried. I was bawling my eyes out. I called my husband at work and said, "Oh my gosh, you need to read this." And he's like, "Just stop reading it." I reached out to my friend Cynthia Eden, and she's like, "Don't read your reviews." She's like, "Read your good ones; those will make you feel better." She's like, or another thing, type in your favorite author. She's like, "Go to my books, look at my reviews." She's like, "Read my bad reviews; that will make you feel better." And I went to E.L. James, the author of 50 Shades of Grey. If you ever check out her books, look out the reviews because she has so many bad reviews. But look at her books becoming a movie. It's already getting so much hype and it's still a year away.
Well, and I think, in some cases, the quote unquote bad review can actually help your book. If you
Yep.
especially if you're getting, I'm a big believer, if you're getting, half of your reviews are good, half of them are bad, it leaves people wondering, like, they don't know, so they have to buy the book
Mm-hmm.
because they want to know for themselves. So a bad review can actually be a good thing.
And that is true.
I haven't had one of those yet, but but again, like I'm only teasing there. I think the worst one I got was interesting. That was it. That was one word review. Interesting. Do you,
Interesting is way better than a lot of other words they could have used.
well, and I do find though that people are not short on words when they do want to give you a bad review. Just reading some other authors and their reviews. But I'm not like that. If I couldn't, I don't think I could write a bad review for somebody. I'd feel
No.
awful afterwards, or I would just leave a completely fake name. I don't experience this a lot lately. I used to when I was younger, but what is your advice for somebody who's going through writer's block and they just can't seem to get the focus down on the plot or a character, or what is your advice for them?
I always say go back and reread what you wrote because usually that helps with my writer's block. I know I get it all the time. Like I'll start typing and I'm like, I can't do no more. So I'll read like a chapter or two previous to see if I can get my characters talking to me again. It sounds crazy, but I hear my characters and that's how it works for me.
And
So
when you say you hear characters, are any of your characters based on friends or family in real life? Not completely, but just their sort of attitude or their demeanor.
yes. My husband actually, I'll never do this again. In Kalos, I have him based as Sean, that's his name. So everyone writes me, "Oh my goodness, I'm in love with Sean. He needs to have Kalos," and I'm like, "That's my husband." So I'm like, "Oh, thanks, I guess." And I always try to add one of my children's names to my books, even if it's just like a little role, like a teacher. I'll add Mr. Rourke or something like that, so I can have my kids in my book in
That
some little spot.
that way, when they grow up and they're reading the erotica, they can say "mom."
Actually, Actually, Black and Blue, for instance, the main guy is Henry Rourke, and that's my son's first name is Rourke.
Oh, there you
So,
go.
yeah.
Well, I said mine. I had to ask. I went because mine is self-help spirituality category, but they're all real stories in there. So I had to go and ask these people, my friends or whoever. There's only like 6 people that are in the book, but it's kind of nerve-wracking asking somebody, "Can I use your name in the book and first name
Nope.
only?" And all of them said yes, thank goodness. But it's kind of nerve-wracking because you never know who's going to read it and who's going to
Yep.
react in that. Um, when you talk about the different genres, is there a genre that you are thinking about writing, or a new series that you're thinking about writing that people don't know of yet, and you want to leak to me?
Actually, yes, I just started a new book. This is my life. I will be writing one and then be like, oh, there's a new book in my head, and I'll start that. I just started it. I actually kind of pre-named it called Hope's Anthem, and it will be about a celebrity going home because her life was falling apart in Hollywood, and she goes back to her small town to find love, and it will be a romance novel, but I'm going to try not put any naughty bits in it. It's going to be completely naughty bit free.
Really? So how did you kind of come up with that idea?
I saw a picture, and it was a woman in a pretty dress that you only see probably about her stomach down, holding a dog's leash, and I thought of a whole story from it. So,
You thought that this woman's life was a mess completely, that she had to go with Viola.
yep.
That's
I'm
awesome.
actually, I based it after my hometown in Minnesota. I'm from a small town of 420 people. Yes, 420. That I've heard all the jokes.
That is, I mean, wow. I have more Facebook friends than
Exactly.
that.
Right, 420 people from my little town, and it's called Pillager, Minnesota. So that's where I'm basing this book out of.
Wow, that is so you can really just get a story like that. It just comes naturally
Yeah,
and
you'll
so
get like that. You will watch.
oh,
You
I'm
see it.
like you though. I have so many ideas in this head of what I want to do that at least you get them out on paper. I start them and I'm like, I don't even know what I was doing anymore. By the end of the day, I have so
Oh,
many ideas. I'm like, I don't even know what I was doing anymore.
I've done that. I've started. You should see my Microsoft Word docs. I have many ones started that I've never finished. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. It's crazy.
Well, the rate you're publishing books, I mean, I can't even keep up with you. You'd have to by the time somebody finishes one of your books, you have another 2 out waiting for them to read.
That is true. I do have a lot.
But you do it the right way, and you do have a very good work ethic, I will say, just based on the amount that you have out. So I like that. Before we wrap up, superstitions. A lot of writers are superstitious about what they will do and won't do. I'm not necessarily. There's just times I won't write if I'm in a bad mood. I only write
No.
if I'm in a good mood, because it's in a bad mood you're never going to get what you want. Any superstitions when it comes to writing?
I do agree about the bad mood because I like my publisher calls me a murderer because I like to kill people in my books. I know it's bad. And I don't just kill like the second character or the little character. I kill like the main characters.
Yeah, well, I mean, why not?
And she's like, because when she read my Beast and the Homecoming Queen, I kill a main character. And she's like, how could you do that to me? And I'm like, I'm sorry. Can I say?
So you're
Kalos, I killed the main character in the second book, and she wrote me, and she's like, I can't believe you did that. I'm like, I'm sorry. My editor's like, how could you? I'm like, well, sorry.
so that's your superstition. You only kill main characters. You don't want to.
No, I'm just saying when you are in a bad mood, I tend to kill people. So, in books, that's a good way at least,
Well, hey, listen, it'd be better that you're doing it in books and not in real life, right?
right? Exactly. I'm like, well, that's why there's a little thing going around Facebook that don't annoy the author, they'll put you in a book and kill you.
Oh, kind of like a new Taylor Swift club, but for authors.
Kind of. Yes.